Welcome to the Golden Crane Award-winning Color Success Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tifffany J. Wong. Today we have award-winning anesthesiologist, frontline worker, supermom to 6-year-old twins, and philanthropist, Dr. Tifffany Moon. She took over televisions this year as the first medical doctor and first-generation Chinese-American cast member in franchise history to be part of the Real Housewives of Dallas. Now moving into the content creating space, Dr. Moon has most recently launched her very own YouTube channel, Paging Dr. Moon, with various lifestyle, medical, comedic, and other videos being released soon. She currently resides in Dallas with her husband, Daniel Moon, Vice President and General Counsel for jewelry and accessory brand Sam Moon. Together, they're parents to 6-year-old twin girls, Chloe and Madison. And Tiffany is a stepmom to 16-year-old twins, Nathan and Nicole. When she's not in front of the camera or saving lives, Dr. Moon also serves on the board of directors of The Family Place, an organization that empowers victims of family violence by providing safe housing, counseling, and skills that create independence while building community. Well, I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Tifffany Moon to the show. Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Stephanie.
You are a woman on my heart. Before I saw your bio, I was like, oh, we're going to be soul sisters for sure.
I love it. You must be a woman that gets a lot done then.
Yes. I have like 15 jobs, but I wanted to talk about your 15 jobs. You're an anesthesiologist, fashionista, doctor, etc. Tell me a little bit more about your journey and how you got into entertainment in addition to all of that.
You know, when I was graduating medical school in 2008, if you had told me that I was going to end up being on a show called Real Housewives of Dallas, I would have asked you what drugs you had taken, because I was super straight A student, top of the class, good girl, never broke any rules, was like a serial monogamist, had like 4 boyfriends in my life, just like one after another. And then I married the 5th. I just never did anything outside of the box before. And so when my friend who was on the show approached me about being a cast member, I sort of didn't take it seriously because I thought there's no way they're going to cast like a full-time doctor with young children to be on that show. And so I was like, okay, I'll talk to the producers, whatever. And then, one day my phone rings and it's the casting director and they're like, we want you to be the newest housewife on season 5 of Dallas. And I was like, is this a joke? It was not, and I did it, and now it's done, and that's it. Case closed.
Well, what did you learn about yourself in the process? I saw like several clips on your YouTube channel, and you're the first Chinese American housewife as well on the show. What is the significance of that for you?
Yeah, being the first generation Chinese American, as well as the first medical doctor to be on the Housewives franchise, not just Dallas, but all of the cities. I took immense responsibility with that role because I felt like I was representing in some way, Chinese Americans or medical doctors. And that if I goofed up or said something embarrassing, that my people or my profession would be like, oh, she's embarrassed us. Growing up as an immigrant, learning English for the first time at the age of 6, we mostly spoke Mandarin at home. And my father would often say something to me that still sticks with me to this day, which is 不要丢脸, which translates to don't lose face, which means don't bring shame to our family. Don't get a bad grade on the test. Don't misbehave and get called to the principal's office. Basically the equivalent of like, keep your head down and be a good girl. Right. And he told me that all the time. And so when the opportunity came to do something really out of the box for me, I was afraid that I was going to lose face.
Yeah.
And in some ways, now that it's done and I can talk about it more, maybe in some instances, I did lose a little face, but I think overall, I think that I am happy and proud of the way that I represented myself and my community.
Absolutely. And I think that's a huge theme in not only the Asian American community, but the mental health community, right? The shame, the embarrassment, and that holds people back from coming to talk about their emotions. And so tell me a little bit more. I mean, how was it mentally to be filming most aspects of your life in that brief period of time?
It was hard. And they always wanted me to talk about my feelings and growing up. And I was like, why did these people keep asking about my feelings? Like, I feel fine. And it actually brought to the surface a lot of which had been bubbling beneath my exterior, which is that I had a very difficult childhood. It was lonely. I was basically an only child because my little brother was born when I was 11. And then I moved out of the house when I was about 15. So, he was a baby. Like, we never really played together. My parents worked all the time, as a lot of Asian immigrant parents do, trying to make ends meet. Mm-hmm. And I was basically, left to, get to our apartment after school, do my homework, and have a snack. Like, we didn't own a TV for a large portion of my childhood. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment where my parents slept in the bedroom and I slept on a mattress on the floor in the living room. And it was just really, really hard. And so for me now to be on a show where people say things like, oh my gosh, I envy your closet, and you have such nice things. It is so it still like makes me a little uncomfortable, because growing up I had nothing at all, which is probably why now I have a hoarding problem.
Yeah, I saw your pool noodles, and I use that technique too, to hold up my boots. But yeah. I think that is really hard, because no matter how much wealth is accumulated or items or whatnot, you can't necessarily run away or forget about your past. And there's a sharp contrast between those two.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I grew up similarly with, working class parents, grocery store worker, and cashier waitress. And so I think there is parallel process here, and just kind of learning how to impart to our girls to be strong, independent women. And I saw in one of your interviews that you mentioned you were a tiger parent. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. I am the proverbial self-proclaimed tiger mom, which means that I have my kids on a strict schedule, and they have a lot of what I call enrichment activities, which include ballet, gymnastics, Mandarin class, Spanish class, and then basically extra math homework and tutoring with yours truly. So I just feel like my children are so lucky. Like, they have so much. Like, Christmas here, like, the house blew up. There was just toys like everywhere. And first of all, I didn't even get to celebrate Christmas when I was little, because my parents like didn't believe in it, Mm-hmm. So we kind of went through the motions, but there was no like, oh, leave cookies for Santa Claus. Like, we never did any of those things. And I remember my mom would take me to Walmart when I was young, and I was allowed to pick my own Christmas gift, like one thing. So I would pick like a Barbie or something like that. And I would treasure it so much. And I look at my children, and they just have their toys like everywhere, and they don't even care about them.
I don't know if they got into LOL dolls, but
oh my God,
those heads are effing everywhere.
They're everywhere. There's hair everywhere. They have American Girl dolls, which those things are like $200. And then their outfits are like $20. And I'm like, my outfit is $20. This sweater was $22. Like,
oh, my friend gave me this sweater. So. I know. For sure.
And I'm like, and I got so mad the other day because I threatened them. They're 7 now, my twin girls. And I said, if you guys don't pick up this stuff on the floor that's everywhere, mommy's just going to put it in a bag and throw it all away. And they were
like my husband.
They were like, okay. And I was like, okay, like you're not even threatened by my threat. And I was so mad. I was like, maybe I will. And then I was like, no, I can't. This is like $200.
I'm not throwing money in the trash. Yeah. I mean, it is hard. I mean, I guess as you go through the process, how do you think we discourage what I call asshole-ish behavior?
Yeah, well, they were little assholes the other day for sure. I sat them down and talked to them, and it's so hard because I'm like, you guys are so lucky. There's so many kids in the world that don't have toys, and they're like, we know, mom, like, and they're rolling their eyes at me, and I just want to smack them, but I didn't. And I think the answer is sort of having the humility and demonstrating to them that like having things is not the end all goal, that we need to be kind people. Their school actually does a really good job of that. And now that hopefully COVID is starting to be in our rearview mirror, I want to enroll them in activities where we actually help other people in the community, because so far we've not done that. I mean, they've been a little bit too young. The only thing that we've done is I belong to the board of a domestic violence shelter. Mm-hmm. And so we went there to sort through clothing for kids and women and sizes of clothing, so that the women who escape bad situations and get to the shelter, we can give them clothing if they need it. So we went there and sorted clothes for like 2 hours. But other than that, like, how are we supposed to teach our children who have everything that's not to be expected, like that they're fortunate, and that because they're so lucky, they need to give back to other people who aren't as lucky as them? Like, how do we really do that other than, I think, kind of leading by example?
Yeah. I mean, before the pandemic, we pretty much traveled a lot. And so when we went to the Philippines, seeing the little boys walk the hot streets while we're in traffic and selling water bottles for 10 cents, and just kind of showing them like, hey, this is, you don't get to choose where you're born, who you're born to. And this could possibly be you, walking up and down the street and making very little money, and working at that age too, for that matter. And the other thing is, I mean, I work with homeless veterans, and so they've kind of grown up around seeing that. But I think it is really hard when you are also trying to insulate them from some of the evils that happen in the world and the dangers, right? So
yeah,
it's a constant learning experience. I mean, sometimes I think, well, I know parenting is harder than going through our doctorate because it's so complex. And I feel like we can control studying and doing that and achieving. And then with kids, it's like, a whole different ballgame. So
yeah, I always say being a mom is the hardest job in the world.
Yeah. And
it
being
really
a stay-at-home mom, because no pay, no time off.
Yeah, I think that is probably the hardest job in the world. So I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Me neither.
No, I would rather work and see them part-time and pay someone else. No, I'm just kidding. They go to school. They go to school. I don't know how to interact with children all day. Like, I'm good for about 2 or 3 hours. And then I'm like, okay, I need my alone time or adult interaction. But I'm not great with young children because you can't reason with them. And I think I'm so reasonable, and you can't reason with a 2-year-old.
Yeah, it's all about what they want. So let's talk a little bit about your journey in the medical field. I mean, what led you to choose anesthesiology as your specialty?
I love anesthesia. I still, to this day, if I had to choose all over again, I would choose anesthesia, because what people don't understand about anesthesiology is that, like, we really are the pilot of the plane. Yes, the surgeon is there working and doing very important work, and there's nurses and other people in the operating room, but really we're sort of driving the plane here. And if there's turbulence, as I like to call it, really people look to us to sort of figure out what's going on. And as you may suspect, I tend to be a little bit of a control freak, a little bit OCD type behaviors, and anesthesia just fits perfectly into that because everything is so precise and exact, and we work with numbers, and it's just so like hands-on. If the patient is hemorrhaging and I need to transfuse blood, I can transfuse blood. I can give pressors. The blood pressure immediately gets better. Like, it's very gratifying, like instantly gratifying, which most of the time in my life I don't get. So it just fits my personality so well. I love it so much.
I mean, I know that they're so important because when I did my C-sections, some dude poked me like 2 times and I was just like, holy crap.
You're like, can I get a better anesthesiologist up in here?
I'm not even sure it was, who was it? But anyways, I don't even remember his name, and I'm sorry that I called you dude, but it really wasn't cool. But you get to see all these things, and your big thing is saving lives and being able to be there for your patients. I mean, what do your patients mean to you?
My patients mean everything to me because I work at a hospital that predominantly serves the underserved residents of Dallas County. So almost all of them are uninsured. Many of them are homeless. Many of them are undocumented, and they have cancer, or they've had abdominal pain that they've had sort of for a long time, but they were afraid to go to the emergency room because they were afraid of, being deported or not being able to pay the medical bills. And so we get a lot of people with like kind of late stage advanced disease. And it always makes me feel so bad that they weren't able, or they felt like they weren't able to see the doctor earlier. And so when I take these patients to surgery, I always tell them, like, I'm your anesthesiologist. And what that means is during the surgery, when you're asleep, I'm going to be controlling your body for you, your lungs and your heart and your brain function. Like, I'm going to be taking over all of those things. So you just leave it to me, and I'm going to do the best that I can. And, I tell that to their families. I always look the family members in the eye and I say, I'm going to do the best that I can to take care of your loved one. And I mean that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I believe it. My father's going in to get a stent, and I was like, I wish that you were his anesthesiologist. He's going to have a good surgeon, but still,
Yeah.
I think that is so important to also be there for the family, because it ultimately is up to them to help take care, or whatever happens at that point, right?
Yeah.
So what is next for you? I don't want to put that too much on you because you are an overachiever, and I know how that is. So I mean, where do you see the next 5-10 years going?
Oh my gosh, that is such a good question, Stephanie. If you could answer that for me, I would really, really appreciate it. Right now, I am still working at the hospital. I'm really focused on spending time with my girls now that they're older, and I can reason with them, and they're in this stage where they're just like little sponges and they ask me questions all day long. And it's really fun because I kind of see things through the lens of a child. And as someone who did not have a great childhood myself, I'm sort of reliving my childhood through them in some ways. I'm focusing on my business, which is aromasthesia candles. I just debuted 4 new scents of my candles, including one that smells like amber and musk. And it's the Lunar New Year 2022 Year of the Tiger candle. And I'm going to donate all the proceeds from that candle to the AAPI fund. So we've been selling candles, making TikToks. I just watched Sing 2 last night with my girls for like the 18th time.
Oh, we still have to do that. We were watching like the old X-Men's. Your girls are a little young, but
we did the Frozen and the Frozen 2, and they're past that. So right now we're on Sing 1 and 2, and Encanto is the current obsession.
Oh God, I've heard we don't talk about Bruno like every day since we watched the movie.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
So honestly, Stephanie, I'm living my best life. I'm so grateful for the friends and fans that I was able to achieve, being on the Housewives. But like, really, I feel like that's a chapter of my life that's closed and I'm ready to write the next one. But honestly, I don't know what that is. People keep asking me, like, are you going to do another reality show? Are you going to write a book? Are you going to keep doing stand-up comedy? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be coy and not tell you guys. The truth is that I don't know. The only thing that I know is that I'm focusing on spending time with my family, and I'm still a doctor. I still go to the operating room. Somebody asked me the other day, they were like, do you still work at the hospital? And I was like, yes. What kind of question is that? And they're like, oh, well, we saw that you were at this place and you're doing stand-up comedy and you're promoting your candles. So we just figured you're not a doctor anymore. And I was like, that is not true at all. So
Well, I mean, after talking to you, it's so much a part of your professional and your identity. It's so important to help people. And I think that's what keeps us going because the pandemic has taught us so much about ourselves and especially in mental health. I mean, I am seeing so much demand, for our services. And especially, I'm very happy to report that, well, I'm in the Bay Area, but many Asian Americans have reached out. And so I think it's just really important to continue our missions.
Yeah, I appreciate everything that you're doing because I think mental health more than ever now is so important because I didn't really prioritize my mental health. I was sort of one of those people that's like, oh, wellness, schmelness, like whatever, like head down and full steam ahead. Like that's how I did life. That's how I did medical school. I think probably I had postpartum depression, but I just like worked through it. Like I went back to work full time plus call when my twins were 6 weeks old.
Oh my
And I don't even remember like the first year of their life. Like there's some pictures on my phone and I'm like, I don't really remember taking this picture. Like I was breastfeeding, I was pumping in between surgeries in the OR, and I just felt kind of like lost and depressed. And I feel like I just lost that whole year of my life. And I remember feeling like so despondent and like I didn't know what I was doing with my life, but never did I think to like reach out for help. And when people asked how I was doing, I would always say fine. And the fact of the matter is I was not fine back then. But now having grown and sort of learned about the importance of wellness through people such as yourself, thank you for educating us. I think now I'm okay talking about, when I'm feeling down and, it's not a secret, but I have really severe anxiety. And, I had to talk to someone about that and take medication for it because I was basically getting so worked up that I was like having panic attacks about going into work and catching COVID because I'm intubating people all day long. And I had this like recurring dream that I was going to catch COVID, come home, give it to my elderly parents. And, it was crazy.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that that's not like your go-to to talk about the anxiety, but it's really important for people to hear that because especially being on the front line. I mean, fortunately, I'm able to see people virtually, but I can only imagine seeing people in person every single day and having their mouths open
Yes.
would give you a lot of anxiety. So,
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing that because I think more people, the more we talk about it, the more people will see that it's okay to talk about it. I was just talking to someone um, through the networks on Instagram, and we were saying he was always told to suppress your emotions and, like you said, keep your head down. And I said, this real strength is feeling your emotions because avoidance really reinforces, the intensity of these negative feelings that we have about ourselves and about others. And it takes real strength to admit that we're not okay sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. But thank you for, I guess, normalizing that it's okay to talk about it because I too was told for, all of my childhood. And sort of it was demonstrated to me that we don't talk about our feelings. And I was never asked as a child, like, how do you feel? It was like, how was your math test today? What did you make? Or things like that. But I was never asked at the dinner table, like, how do you feel?
Yeah. And you will know when if you ever meet my kids that they are kids of psychologists because they say, I feel hurt. And it's like, really? Like she just said that, at some point it becomes like, oh, over the top and extra, but they use their feeling words, so you definitely know who's their mother, basically.
That's
Um,
so cute.
I think we've touched upon a lot of kind of some of your struggles, but something I wanted to go back to was what it was like you said you left the house at 15. Like where
Yes,
did you
I went to
go?
a super nerd program where you go to college early. So I lived on a
At
college
15,
campus.
I heard you said you were better than Doogie Howser.
That was a joke. And then I was like, oh, I can't believe they put that in there. When I saw that, I was like, oh, it's so cringy. Yeah, that's how I ended up graduating when I was 23 years old from medical school because I started college when I was 15. So when I graduated, I was 19, went straight into medical school, and then I was 23. And people were like, you're 23 and you have an MD, like what the hell? Like, but that's how it happened because I was so singularly focused on that goal that I like had blinders on. Like I didn't even see anything. I mean, forget feelings. Like I didn't see anything else either, like fun trips and studying abroad, like none of that because it was just like, must have MD by 23.
Well, I think that's what happens though, is that, I mean, I didn't go at 15, but, I finished really early because I went straight after college to get my PhD. And so, I'm out very early being a manager to people double my age. And it's just so interesting. I'd like to get your thoughts too on what is it like to work with colleagues or at least even supervising people that are older than you. I mean, what have you learned about yourself and your management style?
Yeah, that's an interesting observation because when I became an attending, a lot of my residents and even sometimes medical students were older than me. And I work with nurse anesthetists, and they're almost always older than me, and often male and often Caucasian. And then you
Mhm.
have this little Asian woman, that's sort of like, no, I don't think we should give blood yet. I think we should hold off, and have those kind of conversations. But I try to keep my managerial style like very, I guess not stoic, but like I don't bring emotion into it. I don't raise my voice. I try not to change my tone. I try to just be like matter of fact, like, oh, well, please tell me why you think it's necessary to start giving blood at this time. And then they'll be like, and I'm like, really, the literature doesn't support that. So I think we should hold off and check again in 20 minutes or something. So I try to keep it very like, I
Clinical?
don't know, clean, lack of feelings. We just talked about how we're sharing feelings, but at work, honestly, and as it relates to patients and their anesthesia, there's not very many feelings in anesthesia, which is probably actually another reason why I chose it.
I mean, have you ever had to deal with, I mean, this is a given, but when you deal with difficult personalities that don't kind of, receive the clinical part of it, I mean, what what do you do?
Usually, I try to understand where they're coming from. And then if they're just a difficult person at some point, I just avoid working with them. I just tell our scheduler, I'm like, please don't put me in a room with so and so. But the funny thing is, the people that are difficult to work with, everybody knows it's the same people.
Yeah.
Because in the break room, I'll see my friend who is an anesthesiologist, and I'll be like, how's your day going? And she's like, well, I have so and so in my room. And I'm like, oh, girl, call me later. So, it's just there's no matter what field you're in,
Oh
how
yeah.
smart you are, whatever, there's going to be like difficult people. And, we all take turns working with them, and it's fine.
No, I agree. I was just wondering because, I've had my fair share of run-ins and, I think it's definitely difficult being a small Asian American woman being like, this is what we should do, And I learned early on to not, negate that by being meek or anything, just be myself, which I am assertive and outspoken, but it can be really difficult. I want people, the younger folks to know that are listening and watching this, that it's okay to assert yourself and know your stuff and be willing to share it. So
yeah, be a boss. Don't be afraid to, stand up for what's right and have your voice be heard.
And it sounds like you have a really supportive network of people. I've asked this question to a couple folks of how do you differentiate and discern who is a meaningful friend and who you should kind of be cautious around?
That is a good question. I will say the older I get, the harder it is to make good friends. Now, does that mean I haven't made good friends recently? It doesn't. My kids are in school, and so they have activities, and then I make friends with the moms and dads of their classmates, and that's fine. But other than that, I've made not that many friends over the last few years. I don't know why that is, but I have a lot of really good friends from college and medical school. And I think I prefer to revert back to those friendships other than making new friends, because I just feel like they've been through it with me. I don't have to explain, why my mother and I have a difficult relationship or all this other stuff. We just have so much shared history. So I don't know. I'm probably not the best person to be asking about how to make friends.
Well,
I don't know if you saw Housewives, but I didn't exactly make a whole lot of friends.
Well, I mean, even for those friends that are long lasting, I mean, how have you kept together? Because even I know as we grow up, there's some distance between some friends just by the nature of our lives, just kind of going in different directions.
Yeah, for sure. My best friend lives in Dubai.
Oh my
She's
God, my best friend studied there and lived there
my
for a
friend,
while.
when I was 15 and went to college early, she was my roommate. So we were roommates, in the same room. I had the top bunk, she had the bottom bunk. And she's known me since I was 15. So I've known her longer in my life than I've not known her. And we've been through so much together. But again, she lives in Dubai. So even for us to schedule a FaceTime is sort of difficult because of the time difference. But this is what I'll say about old friends and nurturing those friendships. I have so many friends from college, residency, medical school that I probably don't even talk to on a weekly or probably monthly basis. But I'm telling you that if any of those people called me and needed me for something, I would drop everything that I was doing to help them somehow. So just because we don't talk on the phone every day or, hang out doesn't mean that I don't think of them and have them in my heart. So I think that's kind of what you settle upon as you become an adult with more responsibilities and a job and a family and stuff. And, we just don't have time to call our 4 best friends every week. There's just no time for that. But I would drop everything to help my friends if they ever needed anything. And I think they all know that.
Well, and if they don't, it's now out there. So it'll be out
They
there.
They know.
Well, you've been on a lot of interviews. And so what is one question that you'd want someone to ask you, and what would your response be?
I thought about this, and it's actually quite simple. I think the question that I would want people to ask me and then actually listen for the answer is, how are you? Because I think so often we are like, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. How are you? Right? That's the rhetoric. And I'm guilty of this too. Half the time I ask, how are you to someone, I'm not even listening for their answer. It really wasn't even a question. It was more of a greeting. Right. And so I want to change that and sort of have it become more of an actual question that necessitates an answer. I'm doing well, or, I'm tired. I didn't sleep well last night, or, I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. All the feeling words that we make our kids use. I think we should use them too.
Absolutely. Well, Tiffany, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome because Dallas, it snowed in Dallas and everyone lost their mind and canceled everything. So your call and one other Zoom that I had today was basically all that was on my schedule because my other things were canceled. And instead of being anxious about those cancellations, I actually just enjoyed the snow day with my children and we went outside and played and then we had hot chocolate. So I feel great.
Oh, I love those random days and pockets of kind of being in the moment and being with the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
it's insane, but it's so
Yeah.
much fun.
And then after the hot chocolate, I was like, okay, now go finish your math sheets. I mean,
Or
come
your
on,
Spanish homework.
let's not get crazy now.
We're not having a party here. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. They always ask, Mom, how come we never get a break from Kumon, even on Christmas? And I'm
Oh,
like,
Kumon. We
yeah.
did Kumon. We quit Kumon officially, but now I just am the Kumon.
Oh my, no, I can't do that. I already have to check, the homework and stuff like that. And I'm like, they're doing pre-algebra in like freaking fourth
Wow.
grade, like in their class.
My daughter, when she was 6 years old and we were driving to Kumon, said, Mommy, even the face on the Kumon sign doesn't look happy. And I was like, what? And if you look at and it's like this,
Yeah.
pencil drawing, and the kid looks a little perplexed. And I'm like, no, he's not unhappy. He's just thinking. Like he's trying to solve the equation. Like that's his thinking face. Anyway.
No, I've been working on, I've been working on my book for quite some time. And I say, once you become a parent, you become a liar. Because it's like, seriously, it's like, and then they start asking questions like, but how does Santa get in the house when you don't have a chimney? I'm like, my husband's like, they go through the dog door.
Yeah. No. This past Christmas, I have to tell you this. We left out cookies and then some carrots for the reindeer. And then so we broke the cookies and like drank some of the milk and, and then the next morning they were like, oh, Santa came, all the presents. And then my daughter was like, how do you know Santa came? And I'm like, well, there's presents and it says from Santa. And then my 6-year-old goes, let's check the security cameras. And I was like, because we have like massive security around our house. And she was like, let's check the cameras and see if we can see him. And I was like, no, I don't think we should do that. Like Santa wouldn't like that.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like
lying.
They ask these questions and I'm like, oh,
just lying.
Yeah, exactly. We're just parents, liars.
It's good parenting.
Exactly. Well, I want to keep the hope and the happiness alive as long as possible, but sometimes it just gets real hard, especially when their friends are like, no, so-and-so says their dad is Santa Claus. And I'm like, and my husband, he's just like, well, if I were Santa Claus, you wouldn't get anything.
Right. That's what I tell them. I was like, if you don't believe, I'm like, it's no skin off my back, whether you believe or not. But I think if you don't believe, he's not going to stop by. And so they're like, no, we believe.
Well, it's also always bribery too. So, if this is kind of your opportunity to kind of say anything that you want to say and, tell about your Paging Dr. Moon page and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So Paging Dr. Moon is my YouTube channel, which I just recently started. And yes, I realize that I'm like 10 years late to the game, but I always say better late than never. It's just a bit of a platform so that I can say longer things than I can on my other social media platforms. And it's growing, and I'm fine with it. I am still going on my candles. I love my aromasthesia candles. And we do give a portion of all the sales from those to charity. So I do believe in giving back to the community. And really, I am just sort of looking for what's next in my life. I don't know what that is, but I think it should come to me soon.
And it's fine if it doesn't.
I just tell people I'm living my best life. I laugh every day. Sometimes I make myself laugh. And I believe in leading with love and kindness and giving back to those who are less fortunate. I am trying to teach my kids these values. and just dealing with the struggles of being an adult in this modern day and age, like everyone else.
Absolutely. And you have done such amazing work. You will do such amazing work. And like I said, right when I read the bio, I was like, oh, soul sister, let's sign up for this. So thank you so much for being on this show.
Yes. And I hope to meet you in person one day. Maybe we can, drop the kids off at Kumon and grab a coffee and chat some more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. And we will keep in touch for sure.
For sure. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for listening to the Color Success Podcast. Listen, like, subscribe on all major streaming platforms, YouTube, IG, and if you want exclusive content, you can join our Patreon. All links can be found at colorofsuccesspodcast.com.